There's storms out there tonight, so you better stay in, especially so you don't have to pay the surge. Although, apparently, Uber's getting fined for that now, so, maybe you don't have to pay the surge? Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and today is one of those rare days where I actually have to defend Uber. Uber is getting caught in a stupid thing that they have gotten themselves into over and over again, and frankly, it's happened enough times that people should understand that this is not Uber's fault, and that maybe, it's just the way things are sometimes. What am I talking about? Well, I am talking about the algorithm and surge. And I bet you all know exactly where this is going, especially if you saw the title of the video. It's really hard to pull surprises when you actually have a dynamic title like the one you just clicked. But before we talk about that, let's have a word from our sponsors. And today's video is sponsored by Maximo, the rideshare automation app that allows drivers to safely and easily accept ride requests for Uber, Lyft, and Postmates. Whether you drive for a single platform or multiple platforms, Maximo's custom settings can help you drive more efficient, less distracted, and help you maximize your earnings. It will automatically accept one trip, turn off the other apps, and when your trip is over, it will end it, open the other apps, and accept the next trip, all without you having to touch your phone. Use referral code APP60 and get your first month free when you subscribe to Maximo. So we all know what surge is. Surge is a very controversial topic when it comes to Uber, whether you are a rider or a driver. If you're a rider, you obviously hate surge with a passion. You have never liked surge, even if you make a lot of money. It's the principle of surge. Why does it cost more to take the same ride today than it did the same time yesterday? And if you were a driver, you, for the most part, love surge. I think your personal driver actually doesn't like surge. He's one of the few Uber tubers who I've seen actually criticize the practice. So, they exist out there. But most drivers love surge because it makes them extra money. It gets them out during times they normally would not drive and all that jazz. And of course, then drivers also hate surge because Uber's been rolling out the flat surge, so you're not even getting all the surge, which is kind of defeating the purpose of surge in the first place. Because if surge is supposed to be there to get you to drive when you would not likely drive, then why are you taking that away? You are taking away the incentive. So surge is very, very controversial. Another thing that is controversial about surge is how it's implemented, because people have been accusing Uber over and over again of exploiting, bad situations, exploiting tragedy. And you know what? Here's the thing. I am clearly not the biggest fan of this company. I mean, just watch almost any random video of mine in the last couple of years. You will know I am not the biggest fan of Uber. And yet, whenever this particular situation comes up, whenever this particular topic must be discussed, I am actually defending the jerks because they're not doing anything wrong. Now, before we go on any further, let's look at this article right here. Uber used surge pricing during storm last March, state agency rules. It'll cost them $950,000. So first of all, before anyone comments, yes, I know I said $1 million in the title. I just rounded it up. I mean, it looked way more aesthetic, and it's close enough, so there we go. It says, rideshare giant Uber will pay a fine of nearly $1 million to settle allegations that it raised prices during a storm last March in violation of a state emergency that Governor Charlie Baker declared, officials said. Katie Gronendijk, I hope I said that correctly, a spokesperson for the State Effective Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, confirmed the details of the settlement agreement in a statement. Quote, following a thorough investigation of Uber's use of surge pricing during a declared state of emergency, the Department of Public Utilities is pleased to announce that Uber will pay $950,585, which includes a refund for every overcharged rider. So if you were part of this, you're getting a refund. And, in all fairness, I'm not disappointed that you guys are getting a refund. If you happen to be one of these people, it's just how this all goes. You'll see. In a statement, Uber defended its practice of so-called surge pricing, which boasts fares based on the number of riders and drivers on the road, but also welcomed the agreement with state regulators. Well, of course, because unfortunately, this is one of the situations where it's like, because Uber did nothing wrong in the situation, and their algorithm did nothing wrong. You see, let's, of course, take this moment to go over how the surge works. The surge is based on supply and demand on the algorithm based on the app. If there are more riders than there are drivers, it doesn't matter what time of day it is, doesn't matter what day of the year, doesn't matter what is going on, it will surge. So, for example, let's make this as clear and easy as possible. Let's say there are 10 people who need a ride because Michael Jordan came out of retirement and played a stunning game even at the age of 50, whatever he is. And there are 2 drivers. 10 people came out to want the ride, 2 drivers. Well, guess what? It will surge because there is more demand than there are drivers on the road. Now then, let's say you have those exact same 10 people who need a ride and 2 drivers, except it is an earthquake. Guess what? It will surge the exact same amount because that's how the algorithm works. The algorithm does not see what is going on in the world around it. It is not smart enough to figure that out. It simply looks at the situation, says there are this many people who need rides, there are this many drivers, so these people have to pay more, and by charging more, maybe these people will come and the drivers will be this amount. That is how the surge works. And that is how it has always worked. So what's going on? Well, let's see here. Quote, "Well, we believe that surge pricing helps ensure that riders can get a ride when they need one. This resolution allows us to continue to work productivity with the DPU," the company said. And of course, they have to say that because here's the thing. They have been criticized for the situation, unfairly, I might add, so many times that, yeah, they're not going to fight it. Now, let's continue this. Shortly after Baker declared a state emergency during the March storm, government officials sent an email to Uber, Lyft, and other ride-hailing firms warning the companies not to raise prices for riders until the emergency was over. Now this might be where they got tripped up. And maybe that's why Lyft isn't mentioned in this, because here's the thing. We also know that Uber has the ability to turn off the surge if they have enough of a heads up. For example, and this makes me feel old that I'm bringing this topic up again, but does anyone remember the travel ban? Donald Trump put a travel ban on the airports, and like for air riders, like, hey, you need to do a certain thing to get into the country. And taxi drivers actually decided to protest that by not driving. Now, Uber at this point had a choice. They could either let the surge go, and you know what? The algorithm would totally let them do it, but then they might be accused of price gouging during a bad situation. So Uber didn't want to do that. So what they did was they turned the surge off. They turned it off. And instead, they got accused of trying to break up the protest. So that's what started the whole delete Uber movement. It actually wasn't drivers. It was passengers who felt that Uber was trying to break up a political protest, which was probably why delete Uber was never going to be a long-term thing. So here's the thing. If Uber was given enough of a heads up to turn this off and they didn't, then you know what? Yeah, that is on them. So the investigation originally reported by the Boston Herald was the first of a ride-hailing firm by the DPU since the state regulations took effect in 2017. But Uber, which does not deny raising prices during the storm, argued last year that the language of the law does not actually ban surge pricing. The law says companies shall not raise base fares during an emergency. Uber maintained that means it cannot increase its normal rate, but it is not barred from multiplying the rate during periods of high demand. Quote, "We are confident we complied with the law and our team was in communication with the DPU during the state of emergency." And you know what? They're not 100% incorrect there. I mean, yeah, because they are not manually raising the fares because of an emergency. The algorithm is doing that. And they are charging surge. And surge, as my buddy Peterson has pointed out, is considered a, extra. It's a service. It's just not It's not part of the fare. It's like an additional fee that you pay. So yeah, maybe Uber technically did not raise the fare in this case. So maybe they should be exempt. Although, of course, as we saw earlier, they didn't win this. The Baker administration says $280,584.74 of the settlement cash will go toward refunds to 50,027 customers who were overcharged during the 3-day state of emergency. The remaining $670,026 they just had to have that 26 cents, will go to the state's general fund. Uber's head of policy research, Jonathan Hall, and a company data scientist, Corey Kendrick, made the case for surge pricing in a December 2015 posting on the website medium.com. Quote, surge pricing has two effects. People who can wait for a ride often decide to wait until the price falls. The drivers who are merely nearby go to that neighborhood to get the higher fares. As a result, the number of people wanting a ride and the number of available drivers come closer together, bringing wait times back down. That is what it's for. So, this is actually a little bit more complicated than I thought. For the record, I will still defend Uber. I think they are technically correct. They did not raise the fare. That said, they were given a heads up not to raise prices. And since the surge does raise prices, they probably should have turned it off. They were definitely within their rights to do that. And again, we are not hearing about Lyft on this. So Lyft might have actually heeded that warning, and that's why they're not paying an almost $1 million fine. Again, I will defend Uber in the sense that, no, the surge is non-discriminatory. All it sees is how many people want rides and how many drivers there are. So you know what? Yeah, if it's a concert, if it's a Broadway show, if it's a... Is Justin Bieber still a thing? Probably not. If Justin Timberlake is in concert, if it's a snowstorm, if it's an earthquake, if it's a national emergency, the algorithm does not discriminate. It sees a lot of people want rides, not enough drivers, raise the price. That's all it sees. And it's ridiculous that after all this time, people are still accusing Uber of manipulating and taking advantage of situations. Now, again, this is kind of an interesting situation because this was a situation where Uber was given a heads up that there was a state of emergency and not to raise prices. And the fact that, you know, let's go down here for a second. Maybe maybe I'm not as on Uber's side as much. So here's the thing. This thing shall not raise base fares, and that we are confident we comply with the law and our team in communication with the DPO during the state of emergency. You know what? Yeah, technically that might be the letter of the law. They did follow it, but it's not in the spirit of the law. And it does still show that Uber is willing to take advantage of a bad situation, even just a little bit, if it'll squeeze some money. And now they have to pay this fine. I mean, it's probably a drop in the bucket to them, but I'm sure they would have preferred not to have spent it at all. But anyway, what do you folks think? Do you side with Uber? Do you side with Boston? I would love to know. So comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as low as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly. And you would get access to my exclusive Patrons only blog. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.